I remember the day my wife and I found out that our child would be born with Down syndrome. I felt a profusion of different emotions all at once. I felt nervous and really excited all at the same time. But I remember being immediately studious about learning what Down syndrome is. And the more that I did, the deeper I fell in love with my unborn child.
One, two, three, clap.
You know, being a black man, a black father, is for me to be thrust into a constant state of survival. I know the stereotypes that are out there about people like me, you know, that we are irresponsible, that we're absent from our children's lives, and yet that cannot be further from the truth. The collective impact of all these stereotypes on black people is real. I live in a city in which the population of black people is about 3%. You know, sometimes my wife, who's white, will purchase an item of clothing or a toy for our daughter on Facebook Marketplace. And before I pick it up, she has to alert the person from whom I'm picking the item that I am coming and that I am black. That is a conversation we found necessary to practice in our household, because when I go to some places, people have invariably been sort of standoffish, or there has been some type of response or reaction in some situations where I now find it necessary to announce myself. So as a black person, as soon as I walk out of my house, I know that I'm walking into a world that has all these predetermined stereotypes that have the singular purpose of dehumanizing me, of breaking me. This is a burden which I know many black people, perhaps every black person, either experiences daily or has at least at one point or another experienced. I'm a black man struggling with clinical depression, raising a child with a disability. Just a year before our daughter was born, I experienced the darkest stretch of months. I felt so frustrated because I couldn't do much. I couldn't sort of motivate myself out of bed. I was so immobilized by depression. Then I remember when my daughter was born. Something changed. I felt a renewed sense of purpose and motivation, and I committed to her and to myself that I would do everything that I could to be as healthy and as really alive as I could be. So I take antidepressants every single day. I meet with a psychotherapist on a weekly basis, and I've even started playing soccer again. I've always enjoyed soccer for the community, the camaraderie, yet there was a time when even my passion for the game had dissipated. In my experience, depression and mental illness can be very isolating. As a black father raising a child with a disability, I found it very, very isolating. I was raised in a culture in which communities are bound and held together by an organizing principle we call Ubuntu. I am because we are. It's the notion that, you know, community is where we find ourselves. It's where we discover the truism that it takes a village to raise a child. So I'm on a personal journey to find that village of black caregivers like me. I want to learn from them how they navigate this elusive balance between the highs and the lows of raising a loved one with a disability.
Living the black life is challenging. Being black and having a disability, or being the parents of that black child with a disability, it adds another layer. It adds another layer of stress. It adds another layer of advocacy. It adds another layer of fight.
We need to tell the stories of the black experience with a disability, because anti-black racism does not stop just because a child or a person has a disability. It almost feels like an individual fight, especially for those with invisible disabilities like our son. The race factor is real. When I go to a store, I have to be really careful with him because my son walks around and looks suspicious. And so being watched in stores is just a reality that we face.
Finally, after a few years, Clovis and I decided, you know what, maybe it's time for us to start a little group and get some families to come on over to our home, and we break bread together and we talk. So we decided to create a village with parents virtually, because this was during the pandemic. And our first meeting, we had 40 families.
So as a filmmaker, I want to capture these Black stories within our community so that for some of us, they would serve as an entry point into having some very hard but necessary conversations, like disability within our Black community. For my daughter's sake and my own, I want to have conversations with Black people about our mental health. Once in a while, I receive a text message from a friend saying, "Hey, we're playing soccer, you down?" And I quickly respond, "I'm down." That attitude of readiness and willingness to play is how I also approach my relationship with my daughter. I'm always down to play with her. I've been thinking about the word down. I see it as a homonym which represents so many things for me. First of all, my daughter was born with Down syndrome, so there's that easy connection. But I also know that it represents the state of mind for many Black caregivers. We're feeling down, temperamentally, emotionally, just down. Now, I don't know anyone stronger than my daughter. We spent the first few months of her life in hospital, and several surgeries later, including an open heart surgery. This girl is full of life. She laughs, she smiles, and she even demands that we dance. I love this girl. And so I want to build a village of people who will join me in lovingly raising my child and not despise her because she's a Black girl with a disability.